Yeah, the Lord is my shepherd. I have what I need. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. And then it goes on. But for me, playing this game, playing this sport, there's a lot that goes into it. And, it's easy to get wrapped up in, wanting and feeling like wanting to be loved, obviously by your teammates and everybody, but like the world. And so for me, like in that passage, it's talking about, I already have what I need from the Good Shepherd and Jesus. So I don't know. I've just been studying Psalm 23 throughout the whole season and been going back to it. It's what I start off with actually every single day. I just read off Psalm 23 to myself before I start off with some solitude, and then I go about my day.
Talked to your dad a couple days ago. He said he prays his guts out when he watches you play.
Yeah.
Do you pray when you're playing during the game?
Yeah, I do. And it's not, God, can we win here? Can we do something great here? It's more just to have that peace, that steadfastness in all the chaos. That's really what it is. It's sinking back into, like, Holy Spirit, take over and lead me here in this moment and allow me to think clearly, allow me to, obviously go through my reads and like I said, just have a even-keeled state of mind that I get from the Holy Spirit. So,
yep. Vicky Jones, VOA Sports. I have a question regarding your focus. There's a lot, and you probably don't, maybe you do, maybe you don't. There's a lot of activity, a lot of excitement around Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, and Patrick Mahomes too. How do you stay focused on your game, no matter what's happening in paparazzi, in media, and what's popping up? How do you stay focused on your game?
Yeah, for me, I understand, what I'm trying to do, what our main goal is for this team, and it comes down to 3 hours of football that we play, 11 on 11 on the field. It's not about the media and getting wrapped up in what the whole world has to say. People can enjoy those kinds of things off the field, but as players, and especially being the quarterback, it comes down to, all right, how do I do my job really well for 3 hours against the Kansas City Chiefs defense? That's where my mindset's at. I want to do everything I can to help my team win, and that's what I do. I'm focusing on the plays. I'm focusing on what we're trying to do for this week, not getting caught up in all the paparazzi and all that kind of stuff outside. So,
Brock, so many quarterbacks come into the league and they're really talented, but they go to organizations that might lack stability. You get to come to San Francisco and you have a good owner in Jed York, really good general manager in John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and a lot of weapons, but also a rich history with great quarterbacks in Joe Montana as well as Steve Young. What's it meant for you to land here? Obviously, it's taken some luck, and how has the history of the Niners organization propelled you to have this early success and put you on the right path?
Yeah, exactly what you said is true. We got such a great organization, obviously from the ownership down, John Lynch to Kyle to the team that we have. For me as a quarterback coming into the league, it's been a blessing to have such a great supporting cast around me. Obviously the keys weren't just given to me or anything; it had to be earned. And I've come in day one just obviously trying to learn Kyle's system, his playbook, and earn the respect of my teammates. And then over time, I've been able to step into that role and be ready for my opportunity. And but yeah, at the same time, man, I have a lot of help around me, and it's allowed me to develop, and I'm going to continue to develop with the help and the cast that I have around me. So more than anything, I'm grateful for it, and there's a lot more room for me to grow.
What's the tutelage of Joe Montana and Steve Young done for you?
Can you say it again?
What's the tutelage of Joe Montana and Steve Young done for you as a young player?
Yeah, I mean, obviously just what they've done, for this organization, the history. For me as a quarterback, it's like, all right, there's obviously some big shoes to fill, and I'm not going to compare myself to them or anything, but, they've set the standard for winning in this organization. When you look at the 49er logo, you think of success and Super Bowls because of those guys. And so that's, something that I have in the back of my mind, like, all right, there's a standard here. And then at the same time, when I talk to them, they've been so great to me and supporting me and everything. And when you talk to them, when you're in their presence, you're obviously in the presence of greatness. They got the job done, and so definitely makes you think like, all right, let's step it up, and obviously let's live up to the standard that they set. Can you say it again?
What if Steve and Joe shared with you? You said, wisdom, the advice,
Yeah, just briefly talking to like Joe, it's been just pretty simple, just in terms of, you got a good team around you, just obviously go through your reads and what Kyle is calling and trust in Kyle. you don't need to be this superstar or anything. Like, you can go out and just do your job, do it well, and you got a good team around you, and you guys can win that way. And then with Steve, Steve is, we just talked about just like our mindsets, in the NFL, with all the stuff going around on the outside, being able to, sink back into what you believe and understand who you are and what your purpose is. And then he spoke to the team, obviously, about, when you have an opportunity like this, you got to take it. You can't let it slide. There's a lot of players in the NFL that don't get opportunities to go to the Super Bowl and win it. So he was like, you got to do what you can as a team when you have this op to take it. So.
Hey, Brock, to follow up on that. How do you develop in season, Brock? There's no time, patience. You got to win now, you got to win now, you got to win now. How do you develop when every week you've been kind of thrust in that center stage? Prior to that, we're getting all that many reps.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, meeting with Greasy and Kubiak and Kyle and going over the little things within the game film and being like, all right, you have to be better in this area or that area, and then you just attack it, throughout the week at practice, mentally on my own when I'm watching film, and understanding, like, there's no room to, all right, you can lose a couple games and, we'll get back into it. Like, every game is so crucial and critical. Every rep is so crucial, and so I understand that. I understand also that you can't play a perfect game. You're going to mess up, and but you have to find ways when things aren't going well and looking good to will your team to win and to pick up your part and play well. So, I don't know. Throughout the year, you learn those things, and at the end of the day, you want to put your team in position to, have a good playoff seed, win playoff games, and get to the Super Bowl.
Like, Kyle been
kind of stressing it's a football game. We do this all year long. Have you had to do anything differently to kind of cut out the inevitable noise that comes around the Super Bowl?
A little bit. Just understanding, like I said, like what our purpose is for this. It's going to come down to Sunday. We're playing for 3.5 hours, and how can I play my best brand of football for this organization and my teammates? That's what the ultimate goal is, and that's what I understand that. And obviously with the media and all the stuff going on the outside, you get a lot more attention than you ever have probably in your life, and that's okay. But for me, it's turn off the social media, turn off all the other outside stuff. I got my family and friends that text me just like normal, and I got really good teammates around me. So I keep it simple, and I understand that when I step on the field, it's about playing football more than anything. So.
Brock, follow up on the quarterback question, Brock.
High schooler in Arizona, you're starting quarterback here in the Super Bowl. How do you describe it?
Honestly, just having a big gratitude mindset, with every little moment in my life, every milestone that I've come across, just being grateful more than anything with the people in my life that have helped me get to where I'm at. My family, my friends, communities in Arizona to Ames, Iowa, you name it. I've had so much support in my life, and it hasn't just been a one-man show. So I'm just very honored that I get to play in the Super Bowl now and live out like my dream as a kid. And just more than anything, have that grateful mindset.
Follow up the quarterback question. When you joined this franchise, how aware were you of the history beyond Joe and Steve? It goes back to Ryan Tittle, John Brody, more recently Jeff Garcia, Kaepernick. How much does that matter? And when you have a chance to join Joe and Steve as the only 49er quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl, what does that mean against that possibility?
Yeah, for me, it's an honor. If you take a step back and look at the big picture of things, it's like, obviously Joe and Steve are the only 49er quarterbacks to win the Super Bowls, but you've had so many other greats that have come along and have worn the uniform and played and helped build the history for this organization. So for me, I have an opportunity to obviously win the Super Bowl with the 49ers, and I look at it as such a big honor. And so obviously I'm not taking it for granted. I know you ask guys like Trent Williams, they've been playing their whole career, and they're just now getting to their first Super Bowl, so it doesn't come around like every year. And so I'm looking at it as such a great opportunity and an honor, and I want to do everything I can in my preparation to be ready for the moment and to win it. So.
Did you feel the history in that position with this team?
For sure, yeah. Like I said, right when I got drafted, I was like, man, I get to go to rookie minicamp and put on a 49ers logo, and when I look at that, I see Joe Montana, I see Steve Young, like Jerry Rice, I see all those guys wearing that logo, and for me, like, what an honor. So anytime you walk in the building and you see the 49er logo and you see like the wallpaper with all the Super Bowls that have been won, like, you're always reminded of it, and for me, it's such an honor.
What message can you give to rookie players or younger players that are starting?
Yeah, I would just say to any young guy starting to play the sport of football, obviously you got to have passion. You got to love the game. You can't just be doing it for someone else. Obviously you got to believe in yourself. Put your head down, go to work. It's not about yourself. It's a team sport. But if you love the game and you're passionate about it, I feel like that can take you so far, really far. So that's what I would say to anyone.
Excuse me, whenever the time comes and your family or probably your children ask you what it takes to become relevant in life, which would be your advice?
Honestly, I would just tell them that, like I said last night, it's not about you. I would honestly tell them, I think there's more purpose and meaning in life if you're invested in serving your family and your friends and your community. That's where you find real purpose in life, not wanting to be glorified and be put on a pedestal above anybody else. That's what I would say is when you become relevant, is when you're serving others and loving everyone and not making it about yourself.
What do you need from your team on Sunday to have the best version from Brock Purdy?
One more time.
What do you need from your team to get the best version of Brock Purdy on Sunday?
Honestly, just for everybody to do their job, and that starts with me. If I could do my job and make the right decisions consistently and do what Kyle's asking of the quarterbacks, and obviously be able to distribute the ball to the open guys and make plays when I need to, and everyone else does their job, I think we'll be just fine.
Hey, Brock, when you hear guys, mention, they talk about you, they say he's a guy that's just a game manager and things like that. Isn't that the job of the quarterback, to manage the game? So what's your thoughts on the entire thing?
Yeah, exactly that. Like, I feel like it can be a compliment at times where it's like, all right, you got a guy that can come in and run the system well. I feel like that's a compliment. I think that's, you're doing things right mentally, and obviously you're good enough to be able to hit guys that are open and make plays. There's 32 teams in the NFL, and there's not a lot of people that can come in and play the quarterback position well in the NFL. It's a hard job. So if you're saying that I'm a game manager and I don't look flashy in how I do it, I mean, that's your opinion, and that's okay. And at the end of the day, I want to do what it takes to help my team win. And so I think winning at the end of the day in the NFL is probably the biggest and most important thing.
Roger, talk a lot about faith in all the time. A lot of players on the other side, Coach Reed, they talk about faith. What does that mean to you? Do you pray that you play well? Do you pray that you win? And how do you reconcile, how does the losing team reconcile, whether it's you or them, about the faith aspect of it?
Yeah, I feel like, it's so cool, seeing across the league and the other teams that you play, like other people that obviously believe in God and glorify God through everything. I think it's awesome. And for me, I look at it as just our identity isn't in the sport of football. It's in who God calls us to be and what he wants us to do in life, and what he says in the Bible. And for us, obviously, we're playing football. It's our job, but it's not who we are. And we're loved no matter what because of what Jesus has done for us on the cross, and we get to go and be transformed and love people through that. We're football, it's our job, and we want to do it well, but, man, it's not going to go perfect all the time. You're going to win games, and people are going to love you. You're going to lose games, people are going to hate you. And so as a believer and all the believers in the NFL, like, that's what we mean by glorifying God, win or lose. Like, we're loved through him and because of him, not based off of if we're a good football player or not.
If you win the Super Bowl, are we going to see a recreation of the PYT dance?
I don't know yet. I don't know. We obviously got to take it one play at a time. We want to win more than anything, and if we get to celebrate after, great, and have some fun with it, that'd be great too.
What specific areas of your game have you focused on improving this year with the Super Bowl in mind?
Yeah, I think, honestly, just trying to play the position well. I feel like last year there was times where, situationally, I was, trying to make up stuff and do too much, getting out of the pocket early and scrambling, not going through reads. I feel like this year I took a step just in terms of trusting the protection, checking the ball down, and just being smart with the ball. Obviously, there were some games where I need to learn from it still, and I need to continue to be better at. But I feel like that's an area of my game, just trusting the pocket, going through reads, and playing the position of quarterback well. I feel like that was a step for me this year.
Thinking back to your childhood, Brock. Thinking back to your childhood. What's your first memory of the Super Bowl or watching the Super Bowl?
Man, the first Super Bowl memory that I can remember, I think we were having a Super Bowl party at our house. I think it was the Cardinals and Steelers, and I think James Harrison had that 100-yard return, and then Santonio Holmes in the corner of the end zone, Big Ben at the end of the game. I think that was my first Super Bowl that I can remember.
You were saying in the beginning what you were reading this year. I have a different question. Are you familiar, from Germany, are you familiar with the Brothers Grimm fairy tales?
Can you say it again?
The Brothers Grimm, the fairy tales?
No.
Because there's a fairy tale about, it's called The Little Brave Tailor, and he goes against all odds. It's a fairy tale story, but it's kind of like a miracle. He beats all the giants, and he uses not his strength, but his head. Can you see yourself in that?
But he uses his what?
His head, his mind, his
Okay.
ideas, his strategy.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I feel like just with my career and sort of how it's been, since high school, recruiting, college, NFL, I haven't been the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, but I feel like I found ways to win. And I think that's obviously using my mind and anticipating things and winning games that way, over hurdling somebody or outrunning somebody or throwing a ball 70 yards. I feel like that definitely has applied to my life.
Brock, your body is the reason why people still underestimate you?
Maybe. I feel like that might be a component to it, just because, I don't have the strongest arm in the world, or I may not be making crazy, flashy plays like other guys around the league. That might be something that they look at and be like, all right, yeah, he doesn't match up like them physically, but at the end of the day, if we're looking, at the main goal, it's about winning, and so I feel like I can do that well.
In terms of quarterback play,
how hard is it to you at your young age to be the leader they need?
The leader, sorry, what?
You're in a room full of talent. How hard is it to you at your age to be the leader they need in the locker room?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got guys like Trent Williams and Fred Warner, Debo, guys that have been in the league, long before I have, and so for me to come in and be able to get a huddle together and get guys together on the same page, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's you have to earn their trust, their respect over time, and at the same time you have to have confidence in yourself. Every time you step in the huddle, you got to be like, all right, I'm the guy for this team. I'm the guy for this huddle. I have what it takes to lead them in this moment, and they can feel that, they can sense that. So it's nothing out of arrogance or cockiness where you walk in and you're a rah-rah guy, but through your game, through your play, through your preparation, guys can see that and sense that, and they want to play for that. So that's sort of how I've handled it.
in terms of preparation, in terms of quarterback play, this game could be touted as David versus Goliath. When adversity strikes, what scripture will you stand on?
Man, honestly, I've said this time and time again, but Psalm 23, even when I go through the darkest valley, you are with me. I fear no danger, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Even in the presence of my enemies, you prepare a table before me. That's God. In those moments when it looks scary or uncertain, that's the scripture that I can lean on and rely on. And obviously, God has a plan, regardless, win or lose. He's got a plan for all of us in our life, and I know that and I understand that. So. But in moments where it may look uncertain, that's something that I can go to. Yeah, I feel like, he does a good job with just evaluation of quarterbacks and players in general. So, he understands, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses may be, and so we've talked about things like that, and at the same time, we're obviously on the same page with why he calls plays, and what we're trying to do, what are we trying to accomplish against each defense that we face. So obviously our relationship, I feel like, has gotten stronger, and we've been real about a lot of things with each other. You need to be real, you need to be authentic if we're trying to win. You go through the highs and lows together, So overall, I feel like it's strengthened, and we're continuing to learn more about each other as we go. And obviously we want to win at the end of the day. So that's the good thing that we have in common. I think that obviously, I think it starts with Chris Jones up front. Their line, they've done a good job with, I think, getting in just quarterback pressures and stuff. They've done a good job. The linebackers fly around. Their secondaries is tied well together. They don't allow a lot of explosive plays. They keep everything in front of them, and they make the quarterback really play quarterback. And so that's what they do really well.
Belief in yourself is strong. Your confidence is strong. You just talked about that. What has Coach Shanahan's belief in you from the start? What has that meant to you, and how did it manifest itself early, maybe years ago?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really know, early on. I was just trying to do my job and make the team, all throughout camp, through preseason, even when the season had started. And then I had to end up backing up Jimmy G. For me, I didn't really know that about Kyle and how he felt about me or anything. It was more about, all right, how can I continue to get better and grow and everything. But, obviously, hearing it now, it's pretty cool that they sensed that early on and that they did believe in me early on, that I had what it takes to perform well and be an NFL quarterback. Like, for me, that hearing that now, I think is pretty cool. And but at the same time, we're moved on, and we're 2 years later, we're obviously getting ready to play in the Super Bowl, and this is our main goal right now is that. So, but yeah, no, I'm super pumped for him. It's been tough. He's been to 2 different schools, and injuries and things and stuff have happened. But more than anything, he's grown so much, and he's been with me by my side, throughout my whole career and my life. There's nothing better than having a brother, and he's my best friend. And obviously we call and talk all the time, and just seeing his growth with his relationship with God and trusting in God for his plan in his life. Obviously, he's at his 3rd school and going to Nevada, and I'm super excited for him and the opportunity he has, and I know he's pumped too. And but just seeing him grow, and obviously we've been by each other's side throughout our whole life, and like I said, I love him, and there's nothing better. He's my best friend.
His option talks about you've done the work to overcome that, and you prove that you deserve to be here. But in the early days, how did you overcome that doubt and keep it from getting you?
In the off season? Yeah, obviously having surgery and then going through the rehab process. Like, for me, the doctors are saying, hey, it's going to be probably around a 6-month to even 8-month recovery, just depending on how your body heals. So for me, it was like, all right, I don't even know if I'm going to be back in time for the season when it starts. And so obviously, the human side of things, I'm definitely, maybe doubting some things, and I don't know what my future is going to look like or anything like that, especially after what had just happened, and we were doing well. But for me, I just took it one day at a time. I didn't want to get too caught up in the future. I wanted to stay where my feet were at. And for me, it was driving every day to rehab, doing as best as I could with every little station that I was at while recovering my arm. And more than anything, just trusting in God's plan for me. That was huge. So, and now here we are. So I'm very thankful to be back.
How do you maintain your relationship with the Lord and your identity in Christ while you're performing and stuff like that? And what are practical applications of that?
Yeah, I feel like, the first thing I do every day is solitude. When I wake up, get ready for the day, but then I'm immediately in the Word. I'm reading God's Word, and I pray, whether that's for a couple minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm getting solitude with God, just to set the stage for the day and where my mind is, and keeping God at the forefront, that's huge. And then obviously surrounding myself with other believers. There's believers on our team, some guys that I've been able to surround myself with and pick their brain, and we all honestly sharpen each other in our walk. So I think those are the 2 most important things, and obviously my family and friends as well. They're all Christians, and we all help each other out with our walk. But I feel like those are 2 practical things that I love.
How do you plan on being a faith-based influencer for young adults, for young audiences?
How do I plan on it?
Yeah.
Honestly, just being authentic. I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. And obviously, I think it starts with understanding, why I was created and what my purpose in life is and my identity in Jesus. It starts with that. And I feel like, Jesus calls us to be who he calls us to be, and that's authentic, that's genuine. It's, like I said, not trying to live for the world's approval or anything like that, and that's that. So that's how I've handled it, and will continue to handle it.
Hey, bro, what have been the key? One-star meals for the rest of your life, or going to inch shorter every time you lock something?
Can you say that one more time?
Would you rather eat one-star meals for the rest of your life, or going to inch shorter every time you lock something?
Probably a one-star meal. I'll do that.
Really? Bosa said the other one.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, bro, how would you say that the team's mindset of chemistry has developed this season compared to last year?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, every single season's a little different because you got guys that leave, you got guys that come in, so every team is different. Obviously, we have a core group of guys that have been through some stuff within the last years, really, going to multiple NFC championships, even going back to the Super Bowl in 19 last year with us being one game away again. So we all, I feel like, have grown. We all have that hunger and taste in our mouth that, man, we were right there to finish the deal, and we just fell short of it. So with all of that being said, you got some new guys this year as well, and we all understand what our goal is and what we're capable of. And so I feel like we've all grown through that. And, yeah, like I said, we're hungry for one.
Hey, bro, what has been the key for your development as a quarterback, having Kyle Shanahan on your side, not just physically but mentally as well?
Yeah, I think I just learned so much about the game of football, his football IQ and situational football. He just brings up good points that, I never really had thought of. And obviously with his experience from his dad all the way up until now, the places that he's been, the coaches that he's been under, being able to pick his brain with those kinds of things has, I think, separated myself from when I first got in the league till now. And obviously his system and everything has been great, so playing in his system, I'm very thankful for that, but the way he views the game is pretty special.
Side pictures of you and Lee Harvey Oswald circling around the internet right now. People think you two look alike. Did you ever hear that before?
I haven't. That's my first time hearing it. Yeah.
What do you think about that comparison? Physical comparison, obviously.
Yeah.
You don't see it.
I don't know.
You came into the league, obviously, as the last attractive player with Joss. Was there ever a time when you doubted your ability to get to where you are today? And was there a moment when you realised, once you entered the 49ers, that, hey, I can do this? And did you always have to?
Yeah, there was a time, I think my senior year where, towards the end, we're getting ready for Clemson, the bowl game, and I had an okay senior year, and honestly, I'd call my dad and was like, hey, I don't know what my future looks like, but, I'm gonna give it a shot for the NFL, and if it works out, great. If not, it's gonna be okay. God's gonna take care of me. And so there was maybe a little doubt, I think, right in that moment, but my dad told me, he's like, dude, just give it your best shot. You never know what can happen. And so sure enough, I got drafted last, and I was all in, just in terms of, all right, if I get drafted and I have an opportunity with the team, I'm going to give it my best shot. And, I studied my butt off with the playbook and every rep that I got at camp and practice. I just wanted to make the most of it. And if I got cut, it is what it is. I know God would have a plan for me in my life, and if I made the team, great, let's keep going. And that's been the case. I made the team, and we kept going from there. So.
How does Coach Shanahan manages the pressure, most of all with those players that lose the Super Bowl 4 years ago? What do you think about that?
Sorry, one more time.
How the Coach Shanahan manages the pressure, most of all with those guys that lost the Super Bowl 4 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was something that was tough to get to the Super Bowl. You're up, I think, 10 with 8 minutes or 6 minutes left in the game, and then the Chiefs came back and won. So for all of those guys that have been in that Super Bowl in 19, they've been hurting, they've been wanting to get back. They've been to multiple NFC championship games and fallen short, and so now we got an opportunity again. But when you hear those guys speak, they're like, man, we had it, and you just never know. You got to finish for 4 quarters. And is there pressure? I don't think so. I mean, for everyone here, it's every season is so new. You got a new team every year. We've had opportunities to go to the Super Bowl the last couple of years, and so I don't know. But for everyone, they're just more hungry than anything to win it.
And what's your favorite play in the history of National Football League? Your favorite play in the National Football League, the history?
That I've made?
No. The best play ever, however.
Man, Gosh, there's so many, but yeah, I mean, probably the catch with Joe Montana rolling out. Yeah, I'd say that one. Thank you.
What's your cheat meal after a game?
One more time.
A cheat meal after a game.
A cheat meal? A cheat meal after the game for me would probably be like a burger, bacon, cheese, and some fries.
Last question.
So at the end of the day, is Brock Purdy, what type of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Yeah, for me, I'm a child of God. I am who God calls me to be, and that's it. And obviously, I don't try to, win the approval of the world or what our society, wants for me. It's who God calls me to be, and that's final. And through that, I'm able to love my family well, my teammates well, the people in this organization, everyone that I come in contact in life. So that's who I am.
Brock, talk a little bit about UNLV with their practice field.
One more time.
Talk a little bit about the preparation at UNLV's practice field with the new addition with the turf on top.
I mean, we haven't even really, we did a walkthrough on it and that was it. So I don't even know anything more than that. So
It's good to go?
I think so, yeah. We don't know yet, so.
How exciting was it to be in Vegas last night, opening night, see all these fans and all that faithful showing out?
It was exciting. It was exciting to get here and you see all the faithful, obviously in the stadium and just around town when we're driving through. You could feel just the Super Bowl excitement. So, I mean, as a player, that's what you love, to be able to play for some great fans and the excitement of the environment. So, we're pumped about it. I'm pumped.
Thanks, everybody. Well done. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks.
Well done tomorrow.